it for the interactive part of the workshop, right? So now, just by means of to sort of conclude this workshop in the last couple of minutes, right? Congratulations, right? What we have covered is a few things, right? We've been able to write the code for smart contracts using Solidity. We've been able to compile the Solidity code into EVM bytecode. We've been able to deploy that code, that EVM bytecode, onto Hedera smart contract service. And we've also been able to interact with the smart contract on Hedera smart contract service to query its state and to also change its state. Now, the bigger picture of this is that we've been able to do it in two different ways, right? We've been able to do it using the Hedera SDK, so using its native Hedera APIs. And we've also been able to do it using EVM toolchains, specifically Hardhat and Ethers.js. We've also learned about how to use we've also been able to learn about like the Hedera network more generally, how it works. We've also been using Hashgraph quite extensively to check the on-state changes and how it's been, like how our actions in our code and the command line, how that impacts what happens in the network. And yeah, I think we've covered quite a lot of ground in the basics of interacting with smart contracts on the Hedera network, right? So if you've been like kind of confused, what is this whole Trogdor and Burninate thing? You know, the link to that is in the tutorial text in the outro. So please go check it out. It's a fun little video and game that comes along with it. So anyway, back to the tutorial. Where do we go from here? Right, Solidity is a fairly simple language, in my opinion, right? It's a high-level programming language with a fairly compact syntax. And we've covered the essentials, like the bare essentials. There's a lot more to cover that hasn't been covered here, right? Constructor, functions with parameters, structs, logic, like iterative, conditional, function modifiers, working between one contract and another, like instantiation, interfaces, external libraries, etc., etc. Like there's a lot of stuff that we haven't covered here. And, you know, in real world, you wouldn't ever really work with a contract that's as simple as the Trogdor one that we use in this example. Right. So to go further on this regard, I would encourage you to use the Solidity language documentation. So that's on docs.soliditylang.org. Link is provided in the description. And the other thing that I'll point out is that there is a difference, fundamental difference between Web 2 and Web 3 development because of smart contracts, right? And that is to do with testing. I would strongly encourage that you check out this Hardhat testing tutorial over here to cover the basics. That is something that I really wanted to cover as part of the smart contract workshop, but didn't really get around to because we're covering a lot of ground in a very short period of time. So it's extremely important to test code in general, but in Web3 with smart contracts, because the code is immutable, you kind of have to get the logic correctly tested and verified earlier on in the development lifecycle. That's known as shift left, if you're interested. So go check that out as well. Right. And yeah, I think I'll wrap that up over here. One of the things I mentioned in the tutorial with Hashgraph is that it doesn't have smart contract verification. So you can't see the code of the smart contract that has been deployed, even if it's your own one, and even if you wanted it to be visible. And when you look at the interactions, you can't necessarily understand what is going on without like delving into low-level stuff. So smart contract verification is something that the engineering teams are working on, and hopefully we will have that out for you soon. Right, still a work in progress at this point in time. So on that note, I will wrap up. And if you have any questions, comments, etc., if you want to take a look at this in more detail, I strongly encourage you to check out this repo, and I will paste the link to that in the chat.